Hey, what's going on, guys? Dave Locker with Odd Shopper, and what an insane week that was. I mean, listen, we didn't have a bad week. The spots we really liked, most of them, we hit on. Some of them, we'll get to Pittsburgh in a minute. Not so great. But at the same time, this was one of those weeks where you scratch your head at some of these performances. You take what you can from it. And at other times, you don't want to overreact to one game, right? Some of these games, absolute blowouts, bloodbaths. Others closer than they probably should have been. We'll take what we can from that. We're not going to overreact. We're going to do what we always do. We're going to stay balanced, and we're going to make some picks for today for week 2, picks for every single game of the week. We got 2 Monday Night Football, Thursday night, a bunch of games on Sunday. So if you're here for that, you appreciate this free content, and you think it helps you along the way, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and follow me at Loughy_D, Loughy_D on Twitter. We can have some fun throughout the season. And let me know what was or what is your wildest bet for this week, whether it's a huge a dog, whether it's, an insane parlay. What are you loving this week? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know. I try and read and respond to all of them. Let's go. All right, let's kick it off with Thursday Night Football. I'll have a separate video on this as well, once, with some props and a bunch more stuff. I'll do the same thing for both Monday Night Football games. We got 2 of them this week. Vikings are getting, well, it was 7. It's moved now. 6 points against the Eagles, 48.5 point total in this game. Eagles escaped with a win on Sunday at Foxborough. They probably didn't deserve it, right? Like the defense helped them out considerably early on. But the offense and Jalen Hurts sputtered all game. Hurts lost a crucial fumble late in that game that could have cost it. And Jones looked sharp for most of the game outside of the early goings of it. Shout out to Bill O'Brien. They peppered the Eagles in the middle of the field, stayed away from the boundaries. That's what you got to do against this team. And honestly, if the Patriots had another competent receiver, they could have definitely left out of this game at 1-0. But the Vikings now coming into Philly, Thursday night primetime game. We all know how Kirk Cousins does there. They lost a home game to Baker Mayfield, right? And the Bucs. Low scoring affair. I thought it would feature more points than it did in a dome. With the Vikings defensive troubles last year and all that good stuff. Also their offense, but I think there's a lot of questions for both of these teams. Eagles have a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. There were some suspect decisions on both sides of the field. And then for Minnesota, Brian Flores is your new defensive coordinator. He's a good one too. And then they limited the Bucs last week. But at the same time, like that's not an offense in Tampa that's really going to test you. That's going to be great. Kirk Cousins is no fan of primetime either. And he's especially struggled away from home in primetime games outside of Sunday. It's crazy. The Eagles crushed them last year. Monday Night Football right around this same time in mid-November, 24-7. Justin Jefferson was completely locked down. They got TJ Hawkinson, though, in the middle of the field. That should help. Addison helps. And the Eagles have some injuries on defense, so we'll pay attention to that. If they can protect Cousins, I expect them to move the ball. But they're dealing with injuries on the offensive line, too. 2 of them. Vikings defense hasn't been tested at all either. They got virtually no pressure on Baker Mayfield, though. And that's going to be a problem if it continues on Thursday. So with this at 7, I was like, But the line moved from 7 to 6.5, now to 6. If I'm getting the Eagles inside of a touchdown, I'll lay the points. But even on a short week, I do like the over here at 48.5. If I change anything, it'll be out tomorrow in the video if I get any more insight. But for now, that's where we're going. Raiders, 8.5 point dogs at the Bills, 47.5 point total. A lot of people are going to say that the Bills are going to bounce back in a huge way this week. It was a really tough spot on Monday Night Football in East Rutherford. Aaron Rodgers' debut crowd was insane. What a range of emotions they must have felt in that game with Rodgers going down, then coming back, then winning. Then on the drive home, you're like, shit, we still don't have Rodgers. But amazing, dominant defense. Might be a generational type defense. Tell me if you think I'm crazy. There's also going to be a lot of people, though, that say, hey, Josh Allen's done this a lot before, and he looked terrible. There's no way I'm laying 8.5 points. I personally think they could bounce back. Maybe that's the square side of this one and not the sharp side, but I don't think the Raiders are a particularly well-coached team. I just also have such an insane amount of respect for the Jets defense that I don't want to read too far into that game. Josh Allen has struggled in each of the last 3 games he's played against them, all really low-scoring games. That's why we took the under and on Monday, and we cruised to victory on that. And the Raiders didn't get much pressure on Russell Wilson. in week one. They're going to be probably without Chandler Jones again, who doesn't want to be on the team. And on offense, it looks like they could be without Jacoby Myers, who had a great game in week one opposite Devontae Adams. So yeah, I'll pump the brakes on the Bills if they don't come out strong this week, especially knowing that they have the weapons on offense to make it happen. There might be, more bigger issues at hand here. But for now, give me the Bills at -8.5 on DraftKings specifically. If you're not on DraftKings, I threw a link in the description and in chat. You sign up, you bet $5, and they're giving you $200 in bonus bets immediately. Game doesn't even need to happen. Okay, just bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets if you're going to place this bet, because this is 9.5 or 9 everywhere else. It's still at 8.5 on DraftKings. Shop the lines, my friends. Get your free money. Get your free money everywhere you can and shop the lines, please. This might not be like a 10 to 9.5, but still 8.5 to 9.5 in any NFL game is significant. So give me Bills 8.5 here on DraftKings specifically. Chiefs -3 at the Jags, 51-point total. It's hard to analyze this game on a Wednesday afternoon. I'll keep it kind of simple. I always want to get this video out to you guys early so we can take advantage of potential line movement, so we can get closing line value instead of just being like, oh, Sunday morning, what can I do? But until we have news on Travis Kelce, there's not a ton to do here. Now, I was completely wrong last week when I said that it's Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs will be fine without Kelce as long as they have Patrick Mahomes. The receivers actually need to catch the football in order for that to be true. Specifically, Kadarius Toney. Forgot how to catch completely. It was horrible. And let's be honest, the defense, even without Chris Jones, who's back this week, they did their job. And if it's not for Toney handing the Lions a defensive touchdown, the Chiefs win that game, and they likely cover the 4.5 points. Not to mention the other crucial drop that Kadarius Toney had late in that game as well. On the other side, Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, they looked sharp early before stalling out a bit, and then picked it up late in the game, ended up covering that, which was nice. We were laying the points on the Jags. They closed the game strong, though. But listen, the Chiefs, like I said, they got Chris Jones back. I think that's big. The Kelce news looms really large, though. And I think if Kelce ends up playing, we could see this line move through 3 in some spots on some books, which, again, is why you always want to be on as many books as possible. That 3 to 3.5 is huge. In which case, I'd actually be willing to jump on Jacksonville at home. If you can get them at 3.5, lose by a field goal, you still win. But until we know more about this one, I'm going to be staying away. Seahawks, 5.5-point dogs. Yeah, at the Lions, 49-point total here. I think I want the over in this game. Geno Smith and the Seahawks were awful in week one. This is in the running for most embarrassing performance among many teams that are in the running for week one. In front of the 12th man at home, opening up the seasons, like as the fans just look on in disbelief as Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua go for 115 yards apiece. The Lions, on the other hand, couldn't have started the season off any differently or any better. They got a huge win on the road against the reigning Super Bowl champion Chiefs. And they definitely looked a lot better on defense too. Of course, the lack of Travis Kelce and them having 12 defenders on the field at all times. I'm looking at you, Kadarius Toney. Probably wasn't fair. But how about this? The look-ahead line on this game was -3 before week one even started. The look-ahead line, like early, was -3 for week 2 for this game. And now it's jumped all the way to 5.5, -5.5 for Detroit. Clearly, people are reacting heavily to 1 week of football. I'm not saying that shouldn't play into our decision-making, but I mean, if we're talking about sides here, I would take the 5.5 with Seattle. I think it's a bit of an overreaction, and ideally you get this at 6 somewhere. If it moves to 6, that would be great. Make sure to shop around for that. But it's just one of those spots where I think the line has moved a little bit too much in one direction. And it's going to take more than 1 week to convince me that a Pete Carroll coach team with all of the weapons they have on offense can't be competitive going forward. So give me the Seattle Seahawks plus 5.5 against Detroit, coming off just a brutal showing in week 1. Ravens are 3.5-point dogs against the Bengals, 46-point total here. So the Ravens lost J.K. Dobbins. We still got the cover. That was our favorite game of the week. The Ravens covered -9.5. We didn't get the Dobbins prop, but he went down with an Achilles injury. What are you going to do? Really tough for him. He's been battling injuries forever now. But they still have a strong offensive line, a mobile quarterback, and guys like Gus Edwards, who averages over 5 yards per attempt for his career. The problem here is that the Ravens didn't just lose Jake Edwards. Who's Jake? J.K. Dobbins. It was honestly like M&T Bank Stadium just had landmines strewn across it, and a bunch of these players from the Baltimore Ravens unfortunately managed to step on them because star safety Marcus Williams went down, could miss the whole season with the pectoral injury. 2 starters on the offensive line, Ronnie Stanley and center Tyler Linderbaum, were both injured with sprains. They could both miss this week. And it's possible that Mark Andrews and Marlon Humphrey remain out in week 2 as well. I really liked the Ravens at +3.5 before I started digging in, but these are some serious names that won't be on the field and some more that might not be on the field, including Mark Andrews and Humphrey. You know, Burrow and the Bengals looked even worse, though. Like, they were terrible. I'm chalking a lot of that up, and this is why we were on the Browns, the first half money line. Cash that easy. I'm chalking a lot of that up to just serious rust, not playing for so long. You got another week of practice under their belts, home opener. I think you're going to see a very different team than we saw on Sunday. Now, this is not one of my favorite games, okay? So I'd lean Bengals -3.5 here, but I still like the under 46.5 more. Of course, this is a spot where you absolutely have to be paying attention to injury news, particularly on the Baltimore side, because a lot could change. But I think under 46 in a divisional matchup between two teams that can limit opposition production is the spot I'd rather look instead of a spread. Chargers -3 against the Titans. All right, so how about this? 46-point total, by the way. Chargers offense looked awesome under Kellen Moore as his first game as offense coordinator. I know they lost, but they ran the ball at a 53% clip. That is real significant because last year they ran at a 35% clip. That is the second lowest in the league. It was ahead of only the Tampa Bay Bucks because they couldn't run the football. And the problem wasn't the offense here. I think if you watch this game, and I'm sure many of us did, it was a great game. Best of the week outside of Monday Night Football. It wasn't the offense. It was more so that Tyreek Hill is just utterly dominant. It's impossible to defend him. In my opinion, he's the best receiver in football. And the Chargers not being able to get to Tua Tagovailoa, he was only pressured on 29% of dropbacks, wasn't sacked a single time. He'll ate them alive, and that's what's going to happen if you can't get pressure. One thing about the Chargers this week, though, Austin Eckler's dealing with an ankle sprain, and we don't know the severity of it. It's entirely possible that he misses this game, so keep an eye on that. And I really don't expect this Chargers defense to get gutted against the Titans, right? Like, Tannehill looked dreadful on Sunday. A tough matchup, sure, but also some really bad throws. 2 of the interceptions on targets to DeAndre Hopkins were just terrible. He threw one as he got hit, underthrow, interception. Another one wasn't hit. It was like 10 yards short. Really bad. He had another interception too, 3 on the day. Derrick Henry looked mortal. He actually got out-snapped by Tajay Spears, mostly passing downs, but still. And I'm not sure if this offense can keep up with the Chargers. That's the simplest point here. Like, Tennessee, I think, still is going to operate as a pass funnel defense. Justin Herbert can sling it. Those guys are healthy outside of Eckler. We'll see about that. I'm going to stay away, I think, from this game because there's 16. We don't need to touch on everything. But based on how these teams looked early, if you wanted to bet it, I'd lean Chargers -3 and the under 46 here because I think the Titans can limit them just enough, lose, but also not put up much on offense themselves. I need to see something out of Tannehill before Malik Willis or Will Levis comes in, which that's not going to be any better at all anyway. Packers -1 against the Falcons. All right, this is kind of a fun game, 41-point total. The Falcons want to run the football, right? They want to run the football, and they want to keep it out of Desmond Ridder's hands. Even if that means Drake London's held without a catch. Shit, Mac Hollins was the only receiver to have a reception in that game. The running backs combined for 50% of Desmond Ridder's targets. Kyle Pitts had 2 receptions. They want to run the football. They ran it at a 54% clip in week 1. And last year, 55%. That was the second highest in the league behind only the Bears. And most of that was Justin Fields. I don't expect it to change. I mean, sure, you can't function if you're going to throw like 15 times a game. You're not going to just always win. But You have Bijan Robinson now, and Tyler Algier. Don't sleep on him either. He had 3 goal line carries last week, which was the third most behind only Tony Pollard and Austin Eckler. He's going to be involved. I mean, I can't imagine they don't try and get the pass catchers more involved than they did in week 1, but they want to slow things down. They want to grind the clock on the ground. That's what they're going to do, which totally makes sense against this Packers team too. They were awful against the run last year. They looked better against the run last week, but they took a huge early lead. Chicago had to move to a pass-first approach. I don't know how much we want to read into that. We need to see how the Green Bay Packers defense on the ground looks against this Atlanta team, who also has a much better offensive line than the Bears. So I think this is going to be a real test for their run defense, especially if Quay Walker misses this game with a concussion. That hurts them even more. So, yeah, the Packers are dealing with injuries to their 2 best offensive players, too, in Aaron Jones and Christian Watson, both in jeopardy of missing this game. I think it's possible that Jones is downplaying the severity of this and misses this week. They looked awesome on Sunday, but I'm going with the home team money line at plus 106 here. That is on FanDuel. Other spots, I'm seeing it at like even money, minus 105. Again, shop the lines. I threw the FanDuel links in the description and the pinned comment. That's also bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets. Whether your bet wins or lose, doesn't matter. So there you have it. Between DraftKings and FanDuel, it's $10 into $400 in bonus bets. And you guys know you got to be 18 years or older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLERS. 21 or older in some spots too. But yeah, Falcons, give me plus 106 on the money line, baby. I think this is going to be a decent enough team this year where we can steal value early in the season before some of the lines adjust on FanDuel plus 106 if you're trying to get the best value. Bears plus 3 at the Bucs, 41.5 point total. Only Daniel Jones was under pressure more than Justin Fields last week. Just totally a disastrous performance at home for the Bears. And I'm not sure it's going to get any easier on Sunday, to be honest with you. The Bucs defense took a step back last year, but they got back to looking pretty dominant in week 1. They have all the tools and the personnel to be good again, and the coaching. And I think they can limit Fields' rushing upside here for sure. You know, you look at Winfield, you look at these linebackers, these guys move quick. They swarm the ball. This isn't to say that the Bucs offense was electric last week either, right? Like the Baker Mayfield didn't make any mistakes, which is good. And it's kind of all that mattered because the defense shut down a Vikings offense that was one of the best in football last year. And to be clear, we're only 1 game into the season. I get that. We shouldn't be forming all of our opinions based on 1 game, like I mentioned earlier. But at the same time, in the battle of the trenches, I think that's going to make a difference for sure. You know, you look at that Bears offensive line, not great. Fields going to be running for his life again. We're about to find out. He was pressured on 53% of dropbacks last week. Jordan Love, too, against the Bears, was only pressured 6 times, 20% of dropbacks. Yeah, the Bucs kept the pocket clean for Mayfield in Minnesota. Only 9 pressures. I think the Bucs linebackers and Winfield, like I said, can make it difficult for Fields to really run wild in this game. I'm not buying into their offense being electric on either side of this one right now. We need to see more from the Bears for sure. I would lean Bucs minus 3. I also like the under 41.5. Not my favorite game. You guys know when it is, but I'd lean Bucs minus 3, under 41.5. Colts minus 1.5 on the road at the Texans, 40 point total. I kind of like the Texas money line here. This is also plus 106 on FanDuel. If I'm going to bet this game, it's going to be on FanDuel. If I'm taking the money line, I want to get the best value I can. There's no reason they can't win this game, honestly. They're at home, for whatever that's worth, in Houston. But against another team with a rookie quarterback and suspect offensive weapons, a line that couldn't block at all last week, you know, run defense. And Anthony Richardson I'll get to that in a second, but let me just say the ground game for the Colts was terrible. Deion Jackson had one of the worst games as a running back that I think I've ever seen in my life. Anthony Richardson got banged up. He said he'll be fine. We'll monitor that. But for Houston, CJ Stroud wasn't impressive in the traditional sense, but the guy didn't make any mistakes. He was facing a good Ravens defense on the road in the Ravens home opener. I think they're going to move the ball better in week 2. And I can actually see this secondary being better than expected. I really could. I think there's some upside here, or they just suck. But I think there's some upside here. The run defense was a sieve last year, but they were actually decent against the mobile quarterback in Lamar Jackson last week. He was fine. He was efficient, but he didn't do anything great. The defense really held them together and only allowed 9 points. It's really just one of those games, honestly, where I'd rather take the home dog at plus money on the money line than bet anything on the Colts right now. I don't trust the Colts. You don't have to trust the Texans, but if you're doing anything here, I'm going to take the home dog, right? I'm going to take the home dog at plus 106 with the Houston Texans. 49ers laying 8 against the Rams. That's a lot of points on the road, 44.5 point total. But guess what? Get ready for the Rams to get smacked back down to earth this week. If that's not the case, I may need to reevaluate this team, and you can come back in the comments and tell me I'm an asshole. That's fine. But in no world do I expect guys like Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua to show out like they did against Seattle when they're facing this ferocious 49ers defense. Seattle got zero pressure on Matthew Stafford, 0 sacks, 0 hits while he was throwing, 0 batted balls, only forced him to throw it away twice. Meanwhile, in Pittsburgh, the San Francisco defense tormented Pickett. They sacked him 5 times. They pressured him on 46% of dropbacks. Just annihilation, destruction. And the Rams passing game, sure, they got it done. And the defense held the Seahawks to 13 points. I don't see it happening on Sunday. The Rams run game averaged just over 2 yards per attempt, okay, on 40 rushing attempts. The passing game remains without Cooper Kupp. There's just so much firepower on the 49ers, offense and defense. Laying 8 on the road's a lot, but that's where I'm going to go for this one. I can't take the points with the Rams. I know it's a divisional game. I know it's in LA. I get all of that. I'm just not buying into them being any good. I'm happy to be proven wrong, and you guys can fade this pick if you want, but I need to see what happens first. And the Niners, in my opinion, are probably the best team in the league. Give me 49ers -8. All right, we got the Giants laying 5.5 against the Cardinals. 40.5 point total. This may be one of my favorite spots of the week. You know, of all the embarrassing losses in week 1, this one takes the cake. The Giants got annihilated 40-0 at home. 40-0 at home in the season opener, 2023 season opener. And at no point was this game competitive. At no point. That's what happens when you can't protect your quarterback, right? And an elite Dallas pass rush is going to eat you up every single time. That's par for the course when those two teams meet. You just thought maybe it'd be a little bit different at home as a dog, but it wasn't. No quarterback was pressured more than Daniel Jones on the week. 67% of dropbacks. Insane. Here's the thing, though. I still like the Giants this week. First off, it's really hard to see any way that the Cardinals aren't terrible, right? They hung in there with Washington last week, but I think that's way more of an indictment on Washington than it is anything else that has to do with the Cardinals. Cardinals had 210 total yards of offense. 210. And their only points came on field goals and a 2-yard fumble recovery touchdown. Sure, you could say, well, the Giants scored 0 points, and you would be right. But that game seems like way more of an anomaly than anything that we've seen with Arizona. The Cardinals have no pass rush to speak of, right? They won't be able to control any time of possession on defense. The Giants aren't as good as people wanted to think they were last year, but the Cardinals aren't going to be, let me put it to you this way. The Giants aren't as good as people thought they were last year. There's a better way to put it. But the Cardinals are going to be every bit as bad as we expect them to be this year. Last sportsbook I'll throw out there for you guys if you want to take advantage of all the money. Caesars is bet 50 and get 250 in bonus bets. So that's DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesar, wherever you're not at yet. A lot of free money out there. Bet 50, whether you win or lose, you're getting $250 in bonus bets just when you sign up with the link. So all 3 of them, hopefully that helps, and you guys are going to be able to get some free money heading into week 2. Win or lose, you bolster that bankroll. This would be the spot that I would make that bet, because if you win, well, now you got extra money and your bonus bets. Hit me, or give me that Giants -5.5 in Arizona. It's a lot of points on the road, but I think Arizona's trash. Jets +9 at the Cowboys, 39.5 point total. I could see this being another low-scoring game for a couple of reasons. First, Aaron Rodgers done for the year. Just brutal, man. Brutal for Jets fans. I truly feel for you guys. And Zach Wilson isn't scaring anyone. Jets have an awesome backfield. Not going to be enough. I'd expect the Cowboys to get plenty of pressure too. And second, the Jets defense is legitimately elite. We talked about it. They'll do all they can to keep this game close. I haven't seen a team swarm the ball like I saw on Monday Night Football against Buffalo in a while. But at the same time, it's entirely possible that they lose this game like 24-7 or something in that range. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cowboys pick up a defensive score of some sort. And Dallas tortured Daniel Jones all night in week 1, 40-0 at MetLife Stadium. But the Jets tormented Josh Allen too, and they picked him off 3 times in the overtime win. Give me the under here. If I'm picking a side, I'd lay the 9 on Dallas, just because I don't know how long this Jets defense will be able to manage if they can't keep their offense on the field. And that seems weird to be like, oh, I'm going to lay 9 and take the under. Usually you wouldn't do that. But I really think that 24-7, tell me if you think I'm wrong, 24-7, 27-10, something like that. I think that is in play more than I think like a, 18-14 type of game is in play for this one. And I think the only reason that the Cowboys score as many points as could score that many points is creating points on defense as well, just to clarify. All right, Commanders, 3.5-point dogs at the Broncos, 38.5-point total. Remember last week when I said we were going to take the points with the Raiders because there's no way we're laying north of a field goal on the Broncos until Russell Wilson and this offense proves himself? Well, there you go. That's just every week last year we did this. Even, now that it's Peyton and not Hackett, they got to prove it, right? They have to prove it. And I'll tell you, I have very little faith in the Commanders right now, if we're being honest. But if we're hammering unders, this is the game to do it until proven otherwise. 38.5, I think, is still too low of a number. I could see this game crawling. I know it's a low number, but I still like the under. 2 good defenses, 2 subpar offenses. Like Sam Howell is not scaring anybody. And yeah, it was nice to see Javonte Williams run relatively well. Maybe Jerry Jeudy will be back in action. But this smells like another 17-16 game. Again, prove me otherwise. Prove me wrong. I'm not going to lay the 3.5 on Denver. I don't love Washington either. Although, metaphorical gun to my head, I'd probably take them at plus 3.5. I'd rather take the under at 38.5 here. Even a 21-17 game would get us there. So that's what I'm going with. Dolphins and the Patriots. All right. I liked what we saw from the Patriots last week. They're 2-point dogs, 47-point total here. Wow. I also thought that Mac Jones acquitted himself well in a tough matchup against the Eagles, despite losing 25-20. Until teams, though, can figure out how to stop Tyreek Hill and a healthy Tua Tagovailoa, I'll take the other side, right? Like, meaning take the other side of the Patriots. I just don't see New England having enough firepower to compete, to keep up throughout 4 quarters, right? That's my issue. We saw last week, Kendrick Bourne had a great game, 2 scores, but there was just nothing else working for them. Honestly, you think about it, like if they had one more even relatively decent wide receiver, they're very live. They probably win that game. And Tua hasn't lost to the Patriots ever. In 4 starts against the Patriots, he hasn't lost, 4 career meetings. You're getting him inside a field goal here. I do think it should be a competitive game. I'm not expecting another 36-point outburst from the Dolphins, but if they can continue to protect their quarterback, I don't know how defenses, even a good one like the Patriots, is going to stop them. It's not like the Chargers are terrible defensively at all, but they couldn't pressure him. They couldn't stop Hill. And even if you can, you still have Jalen Waddle on the other side. Give me the Dolphins -2. It's 2.5 in some spots. Look for that -2. Last I saw, Caesars and FanDuel still have that -2 out there. Well, listen, 2.5, not a big deal, but if it lands on 2, at least you get the push, right? All right, Saints at the Panthers. Saints 3-point favorites, 40.5-point total. Every bit of me wants to take the Saints here, -3, but the Panthers as home dogs coming off of a loss makes it kind of tough. New Orleans defense looked really good. They made Tannehill look really bad. He made himself look bad too, but they made him look even worse. And the problem is I keep going back, prime time, Monday Night Football, home dog. It's so uncomfortable betting against that, right? On paper, the Saints make a lot of sense. I could totally understand you going there, and maybe I will. And Carolina is going to be without J.C. Horn on defense, which is huge considering New Orleans, has plenty of weapons on offense themselves in the passing game. I think ultimately I'll settle on the under here at 40.5, but I do a separate video, you guys know, for Monday Night Football every week. We'll have 2 this week. So I'll dig into this a little more, give you some more concrete answers when I do. We'll do it on Monday morning. But for now, give me under 40.5 points. And we'll close it out with the second Monday Night Football game. Browns -2 at the Steelers, 40.5 points. This is kind of similar to what I was saying with Carolina here in that last game. The Steelers got fucking blown up last week, okay? Absolute bloodbath. Just breaks beat off of them from start to finish. I thought they could keep this game competitive. Just like at home opener, Mike Tomlin coach team, they did. It was horrible, but it's also 1 week, and the Niners are just dominant. They'll have another game against the Browns this week, who toppled a lifeless Joe Burrow squad with the Bengals in week 1. Call me crazy. Seriously, you could call me crazy. I totally get it. I'm going back to the Steelers, even without Deontay Johnson. The Browns defense looked solid for sure, and they got pressure, but I think a lot of that game had to do with Burrow being out for so long. I really do. That's why we liked the Browns. This is a week-to-week, this is a week-to-week sport with the NFL when you're betting it. And a lot of times the things that make the least sense on the surface actually is where you should be looking. And that's kind of where I feel here. You know, Deshaun Watson did very little to get us inspired. It's a home divisional game. The Steelers are dogs. Mike Tomlin, outside of last week, historically has been great as a home dog. And like I said, sometimes things that don't seem to make sense make the most sense in the long run. That's right, fellas. Give me the money line. Steelers plus 115. They're going to look to avoid falling to 0-2, and I think they do it. Hey, as always, I appreciate you guys hanging out and watching this. I know it's a long video, but I want to get you as much information as possible and get it out early so we can get some good closing line value heading into Sunday. If you like this stuff, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at Loughy_D, Loughy_D. And we will catch you back here for the next one. Peace.